This hour on WMNH is proudly sponsored by CGI Business Solutions, located at 171 Londonderry Turnpike in Hooksett. Serving all your employee benefits planning, design and administration, investment and wealth management, and customized business insurance solutions. They are available at 866-841-4600 or on the web at cgibusinesssolutions.com.
You are listening to WMNHLP, Manchester's radio, broadcasting at 95.3 megahertz frequency modulation from the top of 1000 Elm Street. Our studios are located at 1045 Elm Street and licensed to Manchester Public Television Service in Manchester, New Hampshire, USA. Contact us by email at WMNH953@gmail.com or through our website at WMNHradio.org.
InfoWorth.
Alex Jones here. As you probably heard, I was banned from Facebook, Apple, and Spotify. You know, you advocate killing one person and millions of fans with dissociative identity disorder, and suddenly everyone loses their sense of humor. Yes, I am under attack, just like the Jews in the Holocaust that may not have happened.
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech is enshrined in the Constitution. That means anything you do with your face hole is protected by the First Amendment, such as firing blow darts, driving a bulldozer with your teeth into a hospital, and shoving a grenade in a dolphin's blowhole while screaming, "Sayonara, Flipper!"
So long, Flipper.
I am here for one reason only, speaking truth to power. That is my singular motivation. Buy my Cortex Quick pills and you will not die! Now available in mixed berry.
Cortex quick.
Do not believe anyone who says these pills are just spray-painted Mike and Ike's.
No, sir.
Let's bring on the last remaining bastion of logic and civility, Donald Trump Jr.
I caught a big fish.
You met with the Russians to get dirt on Hillary Clinton. So tell the folks why the mainstream media is blowing this whole thing out of proportion.
Last time I checked, there's no law that says you can't conspire with a foreign country.
Right, well, except there are laws against it. I can get behind a complicated theory here, but you got to ground it in something.
Look at it this way. Hillary colluded with the Russians, which is bad, but I colluded with the Russians, which is good.
Please, do not make me be the voice of reason here.
Let me start over. I caught a big fish.
You are disconnected from reality.
Interview over.
7076! Tomorrow I will address these rumors that my brain is constantly spinning like a rotisserie chicken.
InfoWorth.
I said, what kind of a man is this?
Says who?
Polls. I just told you I answered your question.
Which polls?
All of them.
Auto sequence starts.
Happy Monday. It's Matt Connarton Unleashed in the Afternoon.
It's Tuesday.
It is Tuesday, you're right. Wow. That's why you're the people's mayor.
Says the Cal.
Feels like Monday, first day of the week. It is, it is September 4th, to be exact. That part I know I got right. 2018, Matt Connarton Unleashed in the Afternoon. We're on the air. WMNH 95.3 FM, emanating from a very hot downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Of course, you can stream us at WMNHradio.org. We're also on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. And let's see, of course, you can... Channel 97. I knew I was forgetting something. If you have Comcast, if you're in Manchester, we are on Channel 97. Jenny is here.
Hello.
And Glenn R.J. Ouellette, the people's mayor, who knows what day it is.
Have you flipped your wig yet?
Have I flipped I don't wear a wig.
Well, you were talking about flipping in your song.
Oh, my goodness.
Says the bald man to the bald man.
For 30, 40 years, I've been watching flippers.
I don't have a wig.
It almost ought to be outlawed.
Balding, I should say bald man to balding man.
Oh, my.
Are you saying he's balding? started.
You're the one over there talking about flipping wigs.
Yeah, well,
Do we need to get you a wig? Are you having a self-conscious
No, I have no
situation?
self-conscious. He's got...
I think he's self-conscious. I
think-
think he has a self-conscious situation
I'm reporting...
with his head.
I'm
and
reporting to the song which talked about flipping.
And he was going to import it from Africa, and that didn't work.
Oh, my
so he couldn't be the
God.
governor there. So
And why don't you react to the part that you didn't like about
he
that
wants
song?
a real human hair
She
wig,
won't, will she?
and so
Huh?
he can flip it over there.
Why
yeah.
don't you react to the part of the song that you thought was
But that was
kinda...
a parody. I can't say anything about a parody.
Oh.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was to give credit. That was from I found that on YouTube. It's from a series called Our Cartoon President.
Oh,
on
I've seen that.
Showtime. Yeah,
I've
it's
seen that.
it's so funny.
So crazy.
It's so funny. Yeah.
you have to ensure that your bladder is empty. You're properly positioned before you watch it.
And hope you don't get a heart attack laughing.
Exactly.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, shout outs to Brendan McCormick for my new artwork, which he shared to my personal Facebook page, but I don't think it's on the. I'll have to put it on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. I'll try to do that at some point during the program, but I love it. I love what he did.
Well, you know, he's
It's so
quite the
cool.
artist, you know.
He is. He actually painted a picture of you at one point, didn't he?
I believe he did.
A few years ago. You believe
Actually,
he did.
he's done more than that.
He's done more than one
He's
picture
done a
of
new
you?
photo when he was away electronically.
Yes. Oh, very nice. Very
With
nice.
the beard, you didn't see that one with the beard?
No, I just remember seeing the one a few years ago that he did of
painting,
you,
yeah.
a painting of you that was it was quite remarkable. It really captured the essence of
that one
when
didn't.
R.J. Ouellette, the
This
People's
one
Mayor.
did, though. The new
Well,
one.
I think they both they captured different compartments of your essence. How's that?
Compartment.
Yes. By the way, a programming note coming up today at 4:30 p. We will be joined by Jilletta Jarvis. She is a libertarian running for governor of New Hampshire. We've had on her opponent in the past, Aaron Day, who's supposed to be coming back on at some point, but I haven't heard from him lately. So, but Jilletta's going to join us today at 4:30. So I look forward to that.
Excellent.
Yes. And I think she was on Gary's show, Rock Paper Hand Grenades, on Channel 23 recently. And I think she's going to be on there again this week, but this time by herself. But yeah, so she's going to be joining us. And let's see. Oh, Fred I see Fred Bonig from the dailyripple.org put something in the Facebook live chat. Oh, I recognize that. This Roy Zimmerman. Oh yeah, we'll play this later, Fred. Good call. Yes. Scrotus, the Gorsuch edition. Yes.
Like it.
Yes. I've heard the song before. It's very funny. Roy Zimmerman, one of my favorite YouTubers. Along with Rocky Mountain Mike, I often play his stuff on the show. So yeah, so it is Tuesday, and then next week's election day, right?
Next Tuesday election day. You're on the air, are you not?
Well, of course. Why wouldn't I be?
Partially.
Partially,
Well,
yeah.
we're off the air before the polls close.
What time? No.
Yeah, you're on the air from 4 to 6, and the polls close at 7.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, well, yeah. So we'll still be on the air, but it'll be close.
Your regular 2 hours.
Close to that time. Yes. Yes.
Which is cool because it's a great way to spend the day while you're waiting for everybody to cast their votes so you can see how it comes out.
Correct.
Well, we
'Cause
won't.
It's the waiting that gets you.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Had no patience?
No patience.
Oh, I get tons of patience.
I have none.
Too much patience.
I have none.
The Iron Man.
I used to. I used to have a ton of it. Now I don't have any.
I have too much.
Nope, none.
Today was the opening of the Kavanaugh Senate hearing.
Yes.
Reuters is reporting chaos grips Senate hearing on Trump Supreme Court pick Kavanaugh. My goodness, chaos is gripping.
And
well,
it just
sounds
got
intense.
started.
Well, it's just the
That
beginning.
will make chaos grip, really.
But you know,
Alrighty
chaos
then.
in the White House these days is an everyday thing, is it not?
It is.
It is.
These cameras aren't changing. I wonder why.
Are they staring at you?
I don't know what's going on.
Oh, they must be staring
Did
at him.
you
Oh,
lose
you're
your
getting a call.
Did you lose your remote control?
I think Pete broke it.
Oh, blame it on Pete now.
Oh, sure.
Well, let's see. It says Senate confirmation hearing for Brett Kavanaugh, President Trump's U.S. Supreme Court pick, descended into chaos today as Democrats protested about Republicans blocking access to documents concerning the nominee's White House work more than a decade ago. They're going to have to get Mueller on the case. With Democratic, it probably turns out Kavanaugh has some sort of connection to Russia. With Democratic senators repeatedly interrupting the Judiciary Committee's Republican Chairman Chuck Grassley at the outset of the hearing and dozens of shouting protesters removed one by security personnel, the session quickly became a ruckus. And there's a word that we don't see enough in journalism. It's a good word, ruckus. Quote, "This is the first confirmation for a Supreme Court justice I've seen basically according to mob rule," unquote, Republican Senator John Cornyn said, a characterization Democrats rejected. Democratic Senator Dick Durbin said, "We prefer the term ruckus." No, I'm kidding. He didn't say that. He said, quote, "What we've heard is the noise of democracy," unquote, which can cause a ruckus, certainly. If I remember my history correctly, there are many there is many a ruckus throughout history.
Well, actually, that's true.
I know. It's really
the
America's
founding fathers
big
argued
ruckus.
and yelled and screamed at each other over what was going to be included or not included in everything from the Federalist Papers on up.
It was a series of ruckuses.
And it
Of
worked.
course.
It worked.
Yes. Hi, welcome to Matt Connarton Unleashed in the Afternoon. Who's this? Hello?
It's our ghost.
Hello? Is anyone? Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Hi there.
You're on the air.
Don't be shy.
I can barely hear you.
Oh, we can hear you. Well, now we can. Before it was the sound of silence.
You sound like you're far away in a tunnel.
Oh, that's Eric Gagnon.
We are in a tunnel.
It's Eric Gagnon.
The studio's moved since this morning. We're now in a tunnel.
Oh, hello, guys.
Hello, comment ça va?
I heard you loud and clear that time.
Oh, hello, guys.
I hear you.
Yeah, now we can hear you great.
He's laughing. He's joking.
I can barely hear you.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, right.
Can you?
Oh, hello, guys.
Can you hear you?
Oh, hello, guys.
I hear an echo. I hear an echo.
I'll ask a question, then I'll hang up. One guy still having his bathroom rally. I won't be able to make it, but I'm going to drop by City Hall a little after 7 o'clock.
Well, we will see you at City
I'll hang up
Hall.
and listen.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eric.
Oh, hello, guys.
Did he just say you're having a bathroom rally?
Yeah, we are.
A what?
It's not a bathroom rally.
A
It's a
bathroom
rally from the public bathrooms at Veterans Park to City Hall, having to do with the closed public bathrooms that people are paying for.
Oh, yes.
You mean that they close them at a certain time of night and reopen them in the morning?
No, they don't do that. They're closed. You're paying for them. They clean them 3 times a week, yet they're closed.
Well, we're going to get
24/7?
We're going to get
pretty much they're open now.
Oh, my goodness, it's a catastrophe.
They're open now during special occasions like an event.
Oh.
We'll get a Supreme Court ruling on that. I have no doubt.
I don't think it'll go that far.
I think I know which way.
We'll have to have public defecation.
Justice Kavanaugh
well, we
will rule.
do have public defecation in our streets because of that.
Yes. You know, in high school, I was in a punk band called Public Defecation.
Well, that must have been weird.
It was very weird, and our shows were very exciting. It says here, news photographers clicked pictures of a smiling Kavanaugh. The conservative, he does smile a lot. He looks like a very nice man. The conservative federal appeals court judge picked by Trump for a lifetime job on the top U.S. judicial body as he entered the hearing room with family members. But moments after Grassley opened the session, Democrats decried the withholding of the documents and asked to have the proceedings adjourned. And a ruckus ensued. I added that part.
What does he have to hide?
Is he?
I mean, George Bush released
What was he crying
42... I don't know if it's 100 or 1,000 pieces of material from his presidency, and Trump says, no, it's a presidential privilege. Well, he wasn't president. It was Bush.
Yes.
Press the wrong button. Your name is Trump.
He pressed the wrong button?
Well, yeah, his name is President Trump, not President Bush. He has nothing to do with Bush's documents.
That's true.
Okey-dokey.
Protesters, mostly women, took turns yelling as senators spoke, shouting, "This is a travesty of justice, our democracy is broken, and vote no on Kavanaugh." Demonstrators voiced concern about what they saw as the threat posed by Kavanaugh to abortion rights, healthcare access, and gun control. Democratic Senator Kamala Harris said, quote, "We cannot possibly move forward. We have not had an opportunity to have a meaningful hearing." Democratic Senator Cory Booker appealed to Grassley's sense of decency and integrity and said the withholding of the documents by Republicans and the White House left lawmakers unable to properly vet Kavanaugh. I can't say I disagree. Obviously someone's hiding something.
Obviously.
Yes. Grassley called the Democrats' request to halt the hearing out of order and accused them of obstruction and inciting a ruckus.
Are they ever in a hearing when there isn't somebody hiding something?
I don't know, but
Or not involving obstruction on one side or the other?
I added the inciting a ruckus, by the way.
You are.
Yes, Republicans hold
Shame
a
on
slim Senate majority and can confirm Kavanaugh if they stay united. There were no signs of Republican defections. If confirmed, Kavanaugh is expected to move the court, which already had a conservative majority, further to the right. Senate Democratic leaders have vowed a fierce fight to try to block his confirmation. Democrats signaled they would press Kavanaugh on abortion, gun rights, and presidential power when they got to question him on Wednesday in a hearing due to run through Friday. Republican Orrin Hatch accused Democratic senators of political opportunism, noting, quote, "We have folks who want to run for president," unquote, though he did not mention any by name. That is true, though. Both Kamala Harris and Cory Booker are expected to run for the Democratic nomination for 2020.
Really?
So you think they're trying to grandstand?
Oh, yeah, they're trying to grab every opportunity. Well, I mean, I don't disagree with them, though, actually. I mean, yeah, I want to know what's in those documents, too, and I want to know why they're being hidden. They're correct, in my opinion, but, of course, they are also using the opportunity to further their public profiles, certainly.
Isn't that what you do? If you're going to run for president, wouldn't you try to... You have to run.
If I were running for president,
gotta stand for something.
I would be going everywhere and starting all kinds of ruckuses.
I'm sure you would.
Yes.
You are the ruckus guy.
I would be known as the ruckus guy.
I've had enough of the ruckuses. I've had enough of the ruckuses.
I would be known as the ruckus guy, and that's how I would win.
Enough. What is wrong with the world?
It's falling apart.
I was saying this on the car on the way in. Normally, when you see, and is it me? Is it just my perception? Normally, when we're in a period of time when the majority of people are employed and unemployment is lower, crime rate is lower. But I feel like every time I turn around, there's another shooting, another stabbing, another this, another that. And it's like the crime rate appears to be going up rather than down.
But
there's a reason for that.
That's anecdotal evidence. You'd have to see actual statistics to know if it really is.
Well, I'm sure that if we look at the statistics, we can see that. We can already garner some statistics from the fact that we've got police chiefs across the country talking about increased rates of overdoses, increased rates of break-ins.
Correct.
They're reporting that themselves.
That's right.
And if you look at the news, and I used to look at the news and to hear about a shooting or something like that was so rare and so bizarre that it got everybody in the state's attention.
You are so correct, because if you look at the last 3 weeks and you listen to the local news, not only paper, internet, but as well as radio and TV, and there's always either a shooting or stabbing. Not necessarily you kill someone, but the gun went off in the middle of the street. You had it again this weekend. So it's happening a lot more often.
I think we might have had it recently than that.
Well, they had it yesterday.
I think we had it even
night.
More recently than that.
Oh,
because
really?
I passed some interesting things at sites along the way, and I'm not going to say what I saw because I don't want to do that to the PD.
No, yeah,
but what I saw indicated that there was obviously something else going on top of what I already know. I know there was a shooting last night at a 7-Eleven.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
I know that there was a shooting last week on the west side. Yeah. I know there was a stabbing. These are the things I know. And we're in a society where, for whatever reason, it has become more okay to be a jerk than it is to be a nice guy. It's more okay to be mean-spirited, to call people names, to be rude, to be ignorant, like the ignorance that we saw with the dummy that doesn't understand that Puerto Rico is part of the United States. That guy, he did lose his job, thankfully, but...
Or how about the guy that doesn't know when to raise and lower the flag for whatever reason?
Well...
It's Protocol. It's protocol.
I got to tell you, Governor Lynch had a problem with that.
Well,
Governor Lynch had a problem with knowing when to raise and when to lower it.
I don't know about Governor Lynch, but the president should know that when a military man dies and when the American Legion by force says lower the flag, it's protocol.
Right. Well, it wasn't. He did.
Of course, he's never been to the military, and
he
maybe that's
did the
his
military
excuse.
flag by protocol, but not by tradition.
He did it for 24 hours.
He did the protocol,
and then he was forced to bring it back
down. But not the tradition. The tradition is to leave it at half staff until the person is interred.
That's right.
That's tradition, but it's not protocol. But I know in our state that Representative Baldessaro finally had enough of it, and he just passed a law that said the state will follow the federal guidelines to put an end to that. To believe it or not, yes. Raising and lowering of the flag is actually an issue in some regards.
Yet we're complaining now that you cannot say the Pledge of Allegiance and pray at the same time on one knee. That is, oh my God, that's a mortal sin. Another thing we're complaining about in this country, lots of people
I don't have a problem with you saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and I don't have a problem with you praying as long as whatever event that you're doing at is a religious event.
Well, in most places in this country, when you have an event, you say the Pledge of Allegiance, and you either have a moment of silence or you say a prayer. That's tradition. But the point is this: it's better for you to be immoral and be an elected official and get away with it than being moral. That's how much our country has turned now. We used to say the opposite, that your character had a lot to do with how your morality was run. Today, they throw morality right out the door, and you wonder why we have the problems we have in this country.
Well, children aren't raised by their parents; they're raised by electronics.
They're becoming to be raised by our government.
Faces are just as deep into the electronics as their children.
But we're beginning to have our kids raised by our government.
That's scary.
It is very scary.
Because the government doesn't hold much.
I know. Look at the 17-year-old. Matt.
As Meghan McCain clearly stated, not her dad's America.
Our America.
Not our America.
She spoke very elegantly, by the way.
She did. I loved her speech.
I think she should take the place of her dad. Don't you agree? She would make a great senator.
Her pain.
It's that's already been decided. It's going to be John Kyle, former Senator John Kyle, is going to replace McCain until the special election. But that would have been interesting. Though I don't know if she'd want to give up her gig at the View. But
I don't know how she stands it.
It'd be a better gig in the Senate.
Because it's always only the way the View is set up. The cards are stacked against you if you're a conservative, because it's one conservative and 4 liberals. You're kind of in trouble from the get-go.
And there's no independence.
So I'll give her credit for doing that.
And there's no independence on the View.
I don't know.
I don't watch it.
I don't watch it
couldn't pay me to watch it.
That's why I asked you.
I think I might have watched it once or twice when it first came out, saw what it was, and wasn't all that interested, to be honest with you. But I'm not a big TV person.
Neither am I, especially in the morning.
I like documentaries.
Yes. Very good.
I'm a nerd.
We had a good one yesterday on the Supreme Court Justice Ginsburg. It was 2 hours, and it was very informational.
Yep.
It was informal, huh?
Informational.
Oh. I thought you were going for informative.
That's probably what I wanted, but you made me switch my mind awful quick.
Now you're not gonna freak out like some people are you?
No, I don't.
If I correct you?
No, I actually don't do that.
No, I know you're a very good sport. Here's what this was what I thought was the most interesting part of Meghan McCain's speech.
The America of John McCain is the America of the Revolution. Fighters with no stomach for the summer soldier and the sunshine patriot, making the world anew with the bells of liberty. The America of John McCain is the America of Abraham Lincoln, fulfilling the promise of the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal and suffering greatly to see it through. The America of John McCain is the America of the boys who rushed the colors in every war across 3 centuries, knowing that in them is the life of the Republic, and particularly those, by their daring, as Ronald Reagan said, gave up their chance at being husbands and fathers and grandfathers, and gave up their chance to be revered old men. The America of John McCain is, yes, the America of Vietnam. Fighting the fight even in the most forlorn cause, even in the most grim circumstances, even in the most distant and hostile corner of the world. Standing even defeat for the life and liberty of other peoples in other lands. The America of John McCain is generous and welcoming and bold. She is resourceful and confident and secure. She meets her responsibilities. She speaks quietly because she is strong. America does not boast because she has no need to. The America of John McCain has no need to be made great again because America was always great.
So there you go.
I
that
love
was
that.
The best part of
That was the
her
best
speech,
part.
and it's obvious who she was talking about.
Oh, it is, but it's
Definitely.
also something that's felt, I think, more widely than I think people realize. I remember when I was going to go into the military after 9/11, where I was already working in the medical field. I was going to go in to be a naval corpsman, and my grandfather, God rest his soul, was a 30-year veteran of the Marine Corps, Lieutenant Colonel Raymond Gandon. He served multiple times in Vietnam, and he served in Korea. He served all over the place. He would leave. He kept re-upping, and he ended his career actually as a recruiter. I'm very proud that his name is on Harmon Wall at Norwich University. And he was glad that the military said that I could not join the military because I had endometriosis. He was actually, he said, I love you, but this is not the military that I was in. This is not the nation that he was unhappy with what he was seeing. And he was saying, this is not my America, the America that I fought for. And I believe that Megan was reflecting on that exact, it's not just about Trump. It's about how all of our Vietnam vets came back and were treated.
That is correct.
It's about how they were told they couldn't take their uniforms off until they got home, and they were spit upon as they got off the planes to come home. It's about all of that. It's about a country that used to love to be respectful, to be honorable, to care for our sick and our needy, to care for people, to be the leaders, the champions of medicine, of art, of innovation. And now we are a nation that is hate-filled, that is filled with rhetoric and nasty tones and disgusting conversations that no one should hear. But that's what we're hearing now. And I really believe that what she said was not just about Trump, and I don't want to lose sight of that. It's not just about Trump. It's about all of that put together.
Very well said.
All right. Well, we have our guest has joined us. Hello, Jilletta Jarvis is here. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
Yes, Libertarian candidate for governor, and you. And who's your opponent? Just is it?
It's Aaron Day.
Aaron Day, and then is there anyone else in the field, or
in
just
the
you
Libertarian
and
Party? Just the two of us.
Okay. All right. Very
so
good.
Is there a primary for the two of you?
Absolutely, on Tuesday.
And are the Republicans and Democrats on the governor's side getting it? You're running for governor, right?
Yes.
Are they also having a primary?
Just the Democrats. There is no opponent to Chris Sununu on the Republican ticket.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, I suppose.
No, I guess
Well, he's a sitting governor. It's pretty rare if he's not. Yeah,
it
it's
would
pretty
be
rare.
it would be very tough to challenge him, and he's very popular. So now, do you currently hold office, or have you held office, or?
No, I am not a politician.
Okay, all right.
I applaud that.
And what made you decide to run?
Well, I got tired of politicians, actually. I kind of got to the point where I believe that where where we started as a country, where we said we need people who represent the people. We weren't there anymore. We are at the point where we had this class of people called politicians who have a tendency to set themselves apart from the rest of humanity. And I kind of got tired of that. I mean, originally I had studied politics. I was interested in it, but when I graduated from college and took my time to learn more about government and politicians in the real world, not just what's in a textbook, I thought, wow, these are all a bunch of things I'm not going to say on air.
Yeah.
And I just can't be part of that. And so I decided instead I'd be part of the PTA, and I would join with local charities and give back my time that way, so I could still help people, but be a part of small efforts or organize small efforts. I did organize.
I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. Couple of questions in the chat room. Can you clarify what office you're running for and what qualifies you to run for that office?
I am running for governor.
Thank you, AJ.
And I believe that I am qualified. I have been a project manager, a manager in large international companies. I have worked in the environmental field, the education field, the healthcare field, and the finance field. So all industries that affect every person every day of their lives. And I have built teams from the ground up. I have taken teams that hated each other and brought them together, which is something that we all have to face when you get to government. Could I send you to a
medical provider's office?
But
not my primary. I love my primary. I love my primary hospital. Please don't take that the wrong way.
So I've spent my time bringing people together, bringing people to the table, getting them to see where they agree, and getting things done.
I would dare say that you're probably more qualified than most of the politicians that are running for governor.
I hope you get to keep that. Not a politician, and you
That's
get
my
elected.
goal.
And if you get elected, you call yourself a statesman instead of a politician.
Public servant.
Public servant.
Public
I like
servant.
that one.
I will
like
not
that
be
one.
a politician.
So,
I will be a public servant.
What is your opinion as far as Medicaid and how it's going in our state? Where is your positioning on that? How or what changes would you make?
Well, first of all, I don't agree with the Medicaid expansion bill that was passed. I think that we're using federal funds in the wrong way. By putting everything into the general fund, we are then able to kind of use this loophole where we can use the money in other places, and we kind of abuse the system. I think that we need to dismantle the general fund and start putting money into specific funds so that the money there can't be used for other things.
Dedicated funding you're talking about.
Yeah, dedicated funding. So if you say 5% of this has to go towards healthcare, then that money should go into a healthcare fund and not be used for anything but.
So what would you do? Follow-up question for you. I feel like I'm in the legislature. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
What would you do then to stop the legislature in HB2 from amending dedicated funds in putting them into different places? They do that through HB2. Every year, every 2 years, every biennium.
They do. And unfortunately, we need to get legislature to stop doing it. We have to promote that. We have to, every time they try, we have to say, no, you can't, we can't be doing that. If you were elected,
would you be willing to go so far as to veto?
Yes, I would. If they are going to take money that's dedicated to a different purpose, they need to use that money from somewhere else. If they don't have the money to do it, they can't do it.
Do you believe in public education?
Do I believe in public education? A lot of people, that's their only opportunity to have their children educated.
I totally agree. I guess I'm talking about is, was it SB 193, was it? Where the Constitution says separation of church and now we're going to give vouchers?
I do believe in school choice, but I'm a little different on what I want to see with that. I think that you should be able to choose what school your children go to. Any public education in the state. If you If your child is, for example, has special needs, and you know that there is a public school in this district that does so much better with special needs, and you want your child to go there, but you don't live in that district, I'd like to see you be able to move your child into that district. You can get them to school on time. You can pick them up from school. You should be able to move your child to that district. The problem, of course, is how it's funded. And we need to fix our education funding. We have a lot of districts that are hurting because of education funding. We have people who are threatening to sue the state again. We have people who are threatening to leave their towns because they just can't afford the property taxes in those towns. And then we have towns that have absolutely no problems with it. And I know that when this first came up, I think I was graduating from college at the time when the Claremont decision came through, when they sued the state.
Are you originally from New Hampshire?
Oh yeah, I have lived here since I was 6 years old, actually.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. I lived here before that, but we left
I
to
wanted to
go
make,
to where my
I
mom
wanted
lived
to-
for a while. But
I wanted to make a distinction between there's like two sets of Libertarian Party in our state, in some ways.
oh, you're talking about the Free State Project people?
Exactly.
Actually, the Free State Project does not really differentiate itself as being libertarian. There's a lot of Free State Project people that are Republican. There are Free State Project people that are Democrat, and then there are some that are libertarian. They're actually listed as a nonpartisan group.
So you sound kind of supportive. How do you feel about New Hampshire exit?
That is the effort to
to remove
the United
state
States
of New Hampshire from the United States and have it be its own country.
I don't think that we're in a position to do that at this time.
I agree.
Thank you.
We have enough problems with money as it is now. I'd like to go back, if I could, on education. I think my biggest problem is, I agree with you. I think every parent has a right to send their kids to the school of their choice. That is not a problem. The problem is when we have a public education funding that comes from our state and our federal government, and then we're turning it and we're giving it to private schools. It wasn't made for that.
No.
We're taking away money from public education, and if we take too much money away, the people who are now getting a good education, equally with everybody else, is not going to get it anymore.
Now, if you have it so that you could go to any public school in the state that you can get to, right? If you change it to that you have the choice to go to any of the public schools, then all the money stays in the public school system, and you bring more competition between the public schools. They're not competing with private schools, they're competing with each other. And then you won't have the situation when
I'm
went
waiting to hear his answer to this, because that's
Yeah,
I'm with you on this
Yeah,
one.
I'm not against that. That's like charter schools, not against that. Competition is good. What I'm against, for example, is a lot of your private schools.
That's not what she said.
But
That's
I'm-
not what she said.
I know what
she
she- I-
said.
I-
SB
No,
193
she
I
said
agree
was.
with what she said.
So
What I'm
so
saying
let's
is,
flip it.
I am
Public
flipping it.
schools. I'm taking my kid from public school A, and I want to put him in public school D, and I want his dollars to go with him. What are you going to say?
That's not the problem. The problem is that a lot of the private schools
That's
in New Hampshire.
the question on the table that you're ignoring.
I know. I just told you.
That's what she said.
I just told you that I agreed with her, so I'm not against that.
So you're
what
agreeing.
I'm saying is the part that I don't agree with is that a lot of the private schools, secular or not, in private schools, for the elementary schools specifically, they'll send these kids to their schools, but they'll say, oh, we don't follow special education here. We won't need to take the district's money from the public schools, and that's wrong.
So now, there are some public schools in the state that do an excellent job and have good ratings when it comes to special needs, and people should be allowed to bring their kids to those schools instead. Now, there are a lot of people who do want to see private schools in the mix, but I think that if you want to see if it works, you really have to start with the public school system and keep it there. Just keep it in the public school system. Let them have the opportunity to see what it is to share funding between public schools and to actually make sure that all the kids are taken care of. And then after you see if that works, then you can look at taking it to another step. But you can't just go from, okay, so throughout history, we have done public schooling, and if you wanted private schooling, then you had to pay for that separately. And then just stop that and say, now we're going to split all that money with all these other schools, and ones that you used to have to pay for, now you won't have to anymore. We're going to take those private people that we don't have as much of a say in how they educate our kids. And yeah, the comparison between a private school and a public school is not going to be the same. So all of these parents would say, wow, if I could have my private school paid for, well, heck yeah, I'm going to take my kid to private school. And I mean, I have a son. He's in school. If I had the opportunity to send him to a private school, he's right now a public school.
But that's
he's
not
a
my
public
problem.
school child. Yeah, I would. But the thing is that you can't just jump the gun like that. You can't just take all the funding and say, okay, we're going to take it away from public schools now and send it over to private schools.
That's
because
right.
We're not ready for that.
Plus, I think my biggest complaint is that if I send my child to a private school, I'm paying and I'm getting money also from the state. That's not the bad idea. The bad idea is that school refuses to teach special ed, so they come back to the public school district and say, now we're going to take extra funding from you, and you have to hire a teacher from your funding to bring him to our schools, which is what we're doing now here at MSD. We have a lot of kids that are in private school, but the schools don't teach special ed, so we've got to take funding from our system and educate their special ed in their schools. It would be much more financial and educational to have those kids already in that system. If you travel a teacher back and forth to all these schools, you're wasting a lot of money.
And
well, the public schools don't seem to have a problem doing that with nursing. They don't seem to care whether or not a brittle diabetic student in one school is sitting in a building with no nurse because she's being shared with multiple other things. There is so much hypocrisy in what you've said.
I agree with what you say there, but I'm talking about special ed.
I want to hear what her
I'm talking about special ed. Well, how do you feel about special ed? Do you think we should destroy special ed?
No, I don't believe we should
not.
destroy special ed. And there are a lot of issues that I've heard going around the state and talking to different parents. We have kids who are in school that have such bad allergies that they are getting sick every single day, and the school says, suck it up.
Yeah, because you can't keep
anything.
your rescue inhaler on you.
You're not allowed to keep your inhaler there. You can't.
I want you to go outside and play. Yeah, there's bees out there, but you can't have your epi with you.
That's crazy.
We have set up a situation where kids are no longer allowed to take care of themselves, even though if you are a child who has lived with this threat of death from an allergy your whole life, you know how to do an EpiPen.
That's correct.
You know how to use your inhaler. You know how to do all of it. You know how to do it better than adults who are just now learning.
You know more about your disorder than the average person around you.
Yep,
that is
exactly.
So true.
Including those teachers that are standing there.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, it'd be one thing if it went from student, it stayed with the student and it was handed off teacher to teacher or something, if they're that want to continue to be that controlling. But what they do instead is risk life.
I've never understood not being able to have your inhaler right there at your desk.
Neither can I.
Never understood that. There's no danger to anyone else in the room if a 9-year-old has an inhaler.
Right.
Nobody
else wants to stick that in their mouth.
Right.
I mean, it tastes pretty gross. I can tell you from my own inhaler.
Yes.
They do. I've had them during, flu season. And they
I have asthma, so I know how it is.
It can make your heart rate go up some, so that's not too comfortable.
Yep.
Yeah, but I don't see what they're going to get, what another student is going to get out of your inhaler. What I see is your inhaler saving your life, but the problem,
it's
and
government
you briefly
overreaching.
touched it, is government
overreaching.
And we have made it so difficult for schools to have children in them. They're not allowed to discipline. They're not allowed to congratulate. They're not allowed to. They're not allowed to do just about everything anymore. You have to treat
building cameras.
Exactly. You have the cameras there, and then if they raise their voice, then And well, at the same time, you don't want your teacher bullying your students.
No.
I mean, I was at a school where the French teacher picked up a desk with the kids still in it and tried to throw it across the room. I mean, there's definite things you don't want to have happen in your school system.
Yeah, for sure.
But you don't want those types of things. But for the most part, you would hope that your teachers are respectable and that you have background checks done on them before they come into the office. And unfortunately, the things that they do that none of us want to have happen in the schools are things that aren't done on camera anyways.
Right.
So, I mean, if you look at the headlines in newspapers, even here in New Hampshire, we do have those things happen, but they know where the cameras are. They're not doing them there.
You know, I believe in state and local control for education. I would wish, because it hasn't been that long ago that we created the Department of Education and the federal government, that they collect our taxes and they give it to the state, and they say to the state and the cities and the towns, you're the ones responsible for education, because the parents are local. We know what we need for our kids. It's come to the point now that the federal government is too much reaching, and they are controlling education, not to the benefit of our kids, let alone our parents.
Yeah, I am not fond of the federal Department of Education because let's look at the fact that New Hampshire is rated 3rd in public schooling
very high.
in the country, and yet the percentage of our children being, when they graduate, we are rated, we are not rated, but they come out with a score of comprehension in reading at 54% and 37% for math, and that's 3rd in the country.
So what's wrong with that?
That shouldn't be acceptable.
Yeah,
the
but
fact
you
that
gotta remember,
any of us think
the
that's
United
acceptable.
States compared to the rest of the globe, we're pretty low on the totem pole when it comes to education.
We are now.
Other countries are far more advanced and far better at educating their children than we are.
And there are 4 states in this country that when you graduate from high school with just your basic diploma, not your honors or college preparatory courses, you just graduated regular, and you graduated top of your class regular. Only 4 states in this country are you qualified to attend an in-state college, and New Hampshire is not one of the 4.
Wow.
And it should be.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. There's also, I don't know how many states there are, but there are some states that have now gone to the level of if you hire a new grad and you find they can't do the math or they can't do the writing, you can send them back to the high school for further training. That there's a guarantee on their diploma for 1 year. That
I don't think
if they
that's
get
here.
hired,
Isn't that what state colleges do, though?
Massachusetts
They set
was
you
where
up?
I believe I heard it. That they would you could send the student who just graduated back to be educated.
But shouldn't we just educate them right the first time?
That's
I
right.
mean, this is why there are
No,
more
we gotta
people
have 'em with the
homeschooling
guarantee
now.
you
There
know?
are more people who want private schools. It's all because you're not preparing anybody for anything when they leave public school. Everybody gets a trophy mentality is overriding everything, and we're not doing any favors for our children, and the public school system is just no longer trusted.
I agree. I've heard smart students who graduated pretty high in their class, and they go to the Manchester state schools, and they're told that from what they were taught, they need another year of math or reading or history or whatever they want to go for. And I'm saying, what did we do? Where did we go wrong? That was our job to do it here. But when you cut classes and you don't teach what you used to teach, something's missing.
Well, let's shift gears for a moment because we have a couple questions in the Facebook live chat. Actually, both from AJ Davis. He's asking, are you for a convention of states, and are you a big proponent of states' rights or federalism?
I am a states' rights person. I believe that we were put together as a federation of a group of states first, with a federal government just to make sure that we play nice together.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I would love to see a convention of states again to get together and work together and remember that we should be states first.
Okay.
Do you have any fears about opening the Constitution to amending?
No. I don't have fears towards opening the Constitution to amendment. It all depends on what the amendment proposed is.
Because
but
you know
opening
what
up
some
a
people
discussion
want.
is different from opening up a discussion about amendments is different from saying, okay, so now we've all agreed that this is a good amendment. Let's put this out for the voters. That's different. And I believe that the people are smart. And if we talk to the people about why an amendment is needed, then they can make their own choices.
What about now? As far as I'm personally opposed to the drug war. I mean, how do you feel about? I assume you'd like to go full legal on cannabis.
I would like to go full legal on cannabis.
Yeah, and what about hard drugs?
Well, I don't know that we're ready for that at this moment. I have looked at what happened in Portugal.
Yeah.
Where they said, wow, okay, we've got 90% of the people in this country are addicted to strong drugs. The kind that kill you, not like cannabis, but
right.
You're going to take this, you're going to get addicted, you're going to overdose, and we have to open the morgue.
Yeah.
And if you weren't addicted, then someone very close to you was, like a brother, a sister, a mother, a father, a son, a daughter. And so they said, all right, we need to think out of the box. This war on drugs hasn't been working. What do we do? So they decided to legalize everything.
Right.
All at once, everything.
Yeah.
And their HIV infections went down to none.
Wow.
Meaning new.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you had it already.
Yeah.
Their addiction rates after 10 years are dropped down to 50%. What they've done is not legalize the selling of drugs. They've legalized the taking of drugs.
Right.
And how they legalized it was, if you are caught with a 10-day supply of anything on you, you go before this drug court.
Yeah.
Okay. And instead of going to jail or having a criminal record given to you, they say, well, all right, this is your first time either getting high in public or driving while intoxicated or carrying around 12 days worth of drugs. So we're going to give you a warning.
Mm-hmm.
Second time you come in, or if you look like you're high when you show up to the court, they don't think that it's a mistake that you just happen to get caught this one time.
Right.
They look at each case as the person comes in.
Yeah.
If you look like you have an addiction problem, they'll sentence it right then, and they'll say, okay, treatment. You have to go to treatment. You have to get clean because we don't want you to be an addict.
Right.
So they're treating it as a health problem instead of a criminal problem. And again, their addiction rates have gone down. Their overdose rates have gone down. Their HIV rates have gone down. Everything has gone down. And now Portugal is a much smaller country than the United States, but I'm looking at a state, not a country. So,
right.
Do I think that we're ready for that while we're in the middle of a crisis? I don't know. They were in a crisis.
Yeah.
I mean, they were in a worse crisis than we are when they made this decision. So could it work here? I don't know. I'm willing.
Would you seriously want to include people who are driving under the influence?
It's the drug influence. Well,
any influence.
Yeah. Well, if you're driving in the influence, then you should get uninfluenced.
I think if you're caught driving under the influence of anything, I don't care if it's an illegal drug, a prescription drug, alcohol, whatever. If you're not all there, you don't belong behind the wheel. I don't know that I'd be in favor of sending them to drug court. I would be in favor of sending them to jail because I think that should stay a crime. Well, driving in a car.
I don't know that they have
people.
the same driving I think they have more public transportation there, so it wasn't as big a deal as it is here, where we don't really have public transportation.
Right.
It's a different situation here. So, like I said, I'm willing to look at it, but there's a lot of differences between what they can do and what we could do, because they have a different culture, a different society that they're basing things on than we do.
Yeah. No, I think it's good, though, that you explained in some detail what they've done, because I think a lot of people have the perception that Portugal, they just legalized everything and that's it, and everything's just, it's a free-for-all and there's no consequence for
if
everything.
you are caught selling drugs, you're in jail.
Yeah. AJ Davis says, so say they kill a family on a first joyride under the influence. Well, I would say killing a family would still be a crime.
That's an entirely different crime.
Right. That's
a crime.
Killing someone. So it doesn't matter why it happened. He also
we
said,
were talking about getting them before they actually.
Yeah, this is just non-violent crimes. This has nothing to do with any other crime. When you are just getting high in public or carrying too many drugs on you, that's what this was dealing with.
Yeah.
If you're committing a crime while you happen to be high, you are going to still be convicted of that crime.
Right.
What's going on in the state that you want to change, that you want to, that's part of the reason why you want to run, that you want to change or see?
So many things. But
what's on the top of your list? What are if I'm a voter, so convince me to vote for you. Tell me, what are your top 2 important items for my state, for where I live, for where my son lives?
Okay, so one of the things that's top on my list is some oversight. I think that we allow our government officials to get away with too much. And if anybody's read a newspaper or turned on WMUR or listened to the radio news or any news at all that happens in New Hampshire for the last 3 years, it is filled with this official doing this wrong, this government department now being sued by people because of this. It's just constantly DCYF. I recently held a rally about reforming DCYF. So many cases of children being hurt or worse while under review by DCYF, and them not stepping in. Yeah. I've spoken to people who are currently working with DCYF and their experiences. I myself have called them to talk to them on behalf of parents to try to, get a case reviewed. And some of the things I heard just from DCYF caseworkers was just shocking to me. Having a DCYF worker tell me that this person calls too often, it's annoying, so we don't call back. And I said, well, this person is reporting child abuse, that there could be a reason that they're calling so often. They want you to come and see the child.
Right.
I just think that that's a valid reason to call DCYF, and having them say, well, it's too annoying for us to call back is unacceptable to me.
Right, of course, yeah.
And these are our children.
And when that child turns up in the news because an ER doctor had to call DCYF for broken bones or
ER doctor
worse?
has already called DCYF on this particular child.
Are you serious?
Yes. That was why we were there. That's why she called me to come and see for myself.
Oh my God. I've unfortunately been in the ER when a doctor has been presented with a case of abuse and had to call the authorities. And the game we play of keeping things quiet until the authorities get there. And I always assumed that because a doctor called, that meant the child was protected.
No.
Wow.
So yeah, these cases
shocking.
and the harassment cases that you're seeing that are coming forward.
I could tell you stories.
And not just sexual harassment, but age harassment. There's so many different cases in our state house where our state workers are complaining of being harassed. It's just the Lori's List situation. Honestly, I don't like the Lori's List. I hate it. I don't think it should even exist. I think that if you have done something as a person that's put in a position of public trust that is so bad that you cannot be trusted to speak on the stand, you cannot be trusted, then you probably shouldn't be in a position of public trust.
Right, yeah.
Okay? And if you are not guilty of what you're on the Lori's list for, then you shouldn't be on it. So again, the Lori's list should not exist.
Right.
So if you've done nothing wrong, if you know, you went out and you were taking too long of a coffee break, you know, you shouldn't be on the list. We all make mistakes at work. But if you made a mistake that's so bad you cannot be trusted any longer,
You see why
are
we need
you
to
in a
put
position of
woman
trust?
back in charge of the state?
Yeah.
What was that?
I said, do you see why you need to put a woman back in charge of the state? That's right.
Well, it is. It's getting to be 5 o'clock. So, Jilletta, before you go, can you tell us what we should know about your campaign as far as social media, website, etc.?
Yeah, on all social media platforms, you can look up Jarvis, the number 4 Gov.
Okay.
And then my website is Jilletta, Jilletta, Jarvis, Jarvis, the number 4 nh.com.
Okay, very good. And are you going to be on Gary's show again this week? On Rock,
Yes,
Paper, Hand
actually
Grenades?
tomorrow. I will be on Gary's show tomorrow.
Okay, so Rock, Paper, Hand Grenades, 6 p.m.
Be
tomorrow
prepared.
on
If
Channel
he gets
23.
Any further to the right, he falls off the ladder.
Oh,
I don't know.
she's been on Gary's
I've been
show
on
before.
his show already.
Yeah.
So you're ready? Okay, good.
I just have to make sure I don't laugh too loud.
There you go.
Okay, I might actually watch that episode.
All right. Well, Jilletta Jarvis, Libertarian candidate for governor of New Hampshire, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you both for having me.
This has been great. And Matt Connarton, Unleashed in the Afternoon, will be back in just a couple minutes.
All hail us and heed us and read us and quote us, the Supreme Court Republicans of the United States. Scrote us. So Antonin Scalia goes to the court on high and takes his argle-bargle to the bench up in the sky. He leaves behind a seat so large and vacant. When Democrats propose to fill it, they discover they can. For despite his oath of office, McConnell staged a coup. Uphold the Constitution, well, he held it up, that's true. He told them, fair or not, we're gonna get our justice, and then we'll nuke the Senate rules so they can't filibusters. The Supreme Court Republicans of the United States. Scrote us. John Roberts, rigid as a ramrod, a model for all constitutional students. And Samuel Alito puts the prude in jurisprudence. And Clarence Thomas, quiet as a church mouse. And other stuff we're too polite to mention. Neil Gorsuch, yes, of course, with his original intention for gender rights prevention. And Anthony Kennedy is a swinger. We're certainly glad to have counted him in. We're not the Warren Court, we're the court that's waging war on women. A corporation is a person, moreover it's a man. A woman is a helpmate for to please him if she can. And a man may worship any god he pleases, just so long as his religion is approved by Jesus. All hail us and fear us, revere us and cheer us, 'cause Ginsburg and Breyer, Kagan and Sotomayor booed us. They said the screwed us, screwed us.
It's okay. It's okay. Okay. Our little.
Alone I'm going much for the future, got nothing left for me. Ooh, running restless through the city to find my fantasy. Looked into your eyes and found it looking back at me. Now that the winter's over, sweet love is taking all of those dark clouds have faded away. Ooh, you got the tables turning, can't stop the fire from burning. You got a ticket to take me all the way. Weatherman says it's gonna get hot tonight. There's a fever in the air that I can't control. Now I'm gonna be a fool for love, oh, but I think it's alright. And I never wanna let this feeling go. Weatherman says it's gonna get hot tonight, and I'm gonna feel this burning desire. And I'm gonna get lost in love, oh, 'cause it feels so right. Baby, I'll raise this flame into a fire. Lost my vision trying to read the writing on the wall. Caught in fatal fascination, heading for a fall. Sweet shining summer angel came to my rescue. Shook off all that old suspicion, found the dream come true. Now that the winter's over, sweet love is taking all of those dark clouds have faded away. Ooh, you got the tables turning, can't stop the fire from burning. You got a ticket to take me all the way. Weatherman says it's gonna get hot tonight. There's a fever in the air that I can't control. Now I'm gonna be a fool for love, oh, but I think it's alright. I never wanna let this feeling go. Weatherman says it's gonna get hot tonight, and I'm gonna feel this burning desire. And I'm gonna get lost in love, oh, 'cause it feels so right. Baby, I'll raise this flame into a fire. Weatherman says it's gonna get hot tonight. There's a fever in the air that I can't control. Now I'm gonna be a fool for love, oh, but I think it's alright. I never wanna let this feeling go, no. Weatherman says it's gonna get hot tonight, and I'm gonna feel this burning desire. And I'm gonna get lost in love, oh, 'cause it feels so right. Baby, I'll raise this flame into a fire. Weatherman says it's gonna get hot tonight.
I got 800 miles of open border right outside my door. There's many men in little pickup trucks who declared their own dang left wing, right wing, up wing, down. I see strip malls, we see the shining sea. It's the fat cat white developer who's created this whole damn squall. It's a pyramid scheme of dirty jobs, and who's gonna build your wall? Who's gonna build your wall, boy? Who's gonna mow your lawn? Who's gonna cook your Mexican food when your Mexican maid is gone? Who's gonna wax the floors tonight down at the local mall? Who's gonna wash your baby's face? Who's gonna build your wall? We got fundamentalist Muslims. We got fundamentalist Jews. We got fundamentalist Christians. They'll blow the whole thing up for you. But as I travel around this big old world, there's one thing that I most fear. It's a white man in a golf shirt with a cell phone in his ear. Yeah, who's gonna build your wall, boy? Who's gonna mow your lawn? Who's gonna cook your Mexican food when your Mexican maid is gone? Who's gonna wax the floors tonight down at the local mall? Who's gonna wash your baby's face? Who's gonna build your wall? Yeah, who's gonna wash your baby's face? Who's gonna build your wall?
Hand me down what he's obtained. We're all down with that. Hurry now, don't be late, cause it's time to catch that rat. You and me, we're logging on to see his latest crimes. Guaranteed to blow your mind, the shit's about to go down. Hey Trump, prepare yourself for the Don McGahn. Man, you never heard a sound like a Don McGahn. Man, Trump, he will lose control when the Don McGahn starts to jam. You say this cat's out of sight? Everything he says seems to check out right.
I want to talk to you right now about a fundamental threat to American democracy. This is not a message of happiness or reassurance, but it is the truth, and it is a warning.
We are a country of laws, not men. Founding fathers said that then. But laws can't work without the facts. Facts are stubborn things. John Adams said that. Choose between government or the press. Would be a thoughtful test. North, south, east or west, I'd choose free press, free press. Tom Jefferson said that. I don't mind some rain, but please, please don't let my country wash away. Waking up, I caught the morning news. 'Twas bizarre political blues. Man saying nonsense and trash, lies rusty. I said that. Demagogues in training, young and old. This narcissist wants me to wait out in the cold. Don't lie to me and say it's for my own good. Why don't you do what you know you should?
Change only happens. Ordinary people get involved and they get engaged. And they come together to demand it.
Gonna let the poor eat cake. Let the sick eat it too. What about those afraid to go outside? What are they supposed to do? Eat handcuffs and shackles out on the avenue. I don't mind some rain, but please, please don't let my country wash away. I don't mind some rain, but please, please don't let my country wash away.
Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive.
Hey everybody, it's Matt Connarton, Unleashed in the Afternoon. We are live on WMNH 95.3 FM, emanating from downtown Manchester, New Hampshire. Of course, streaming at WMNHradio.org on Channel 97 Comcast if you're in the Manchester area. And, of course, on Facebook Live on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. I see Aaron Day joins us in the Facebook Live chat, who is, Aaron, I'm not sure how long you've been in there, if you were in there for any of Jilletta's interview. Of course, Aaron is Jilletta Jarvis's opponent for the Libertarian nomination for governor here in New Hampshire. So I also see Melissa Beers in the Facebook Live chat. And AJ, sorry we didn't get to all of your questions there. Let's see. I found this clip on, one of the folks on Fox who can actually be very critical at times of the president. I mean, I think he supports, he supports Trump in the macro, but is very critical of some of his actions and in terms of the legal exposure that Trump opens himself up to. Judge Andrew Napolitano, and it's always interesting. He's, like I said, I think he supports Trump generally, but he's intellectually honest in that he's not afraid to call out Trump on what he thinks is reckless behavior and some of the rhetoric that Trump uses and whatnot that actually is very self-immolating. And the latest was this tweet that went out the other day. Trump tweeted, 2 long-running Obama-era investigations of 2 very popular Republican congressmen were brought to a well-publicized charge just ahead of the midterms by the Jeff Sessions Justice Department. 2 easy wins and now in doubt because there is not enough time. Good job, Jeff. And obviously the good job, Jeff, was sarcasm. And essentially what he's saying is that, he's mad at Jeff Sessions that the Justice Department has brought charges against these 2 these 2 congressmen who are running, these 2 Republican congressmen running for re-election, whose re-elections might now be in jeopardy because of these investigations. So, the problem with that should be obvious, right? He's mad at Jeff Sessions for, allowing the Justice Department, I suppose you could put it that way, to move forward with investigations that potentially hurt the Republicans in the midterms. So the Justice Department obviously is not supposed to be considering the politics of something in terms of their investigations, right? But so this is obviously very problematic. So I'm going to go ahead and play for you This is Judge Napolitano. I always enjoy his appearances on Fox and Friends because he makes the three of them uncomfortable because, you know, their job is to fillet the president verbally, of course, every morning. And then so when they bring someone on who's kind of kind of stirs the pot a little bit, they get a little nervous. But here it is, and Steve Ducey, at least, I'm still not sure I'm saying his name correctly, seems to essentially agree with what Napolitano is saying here in his concern. But here, I'll go ahead and play the clip for you. Oh, except I've got no volume on it. Oh, it froze up. It froze up. I'm trying to play this from the Mediaite website. I think I have more trouble with this website than any other. Let me try that again. All right, it says loading. It's probably going to make me sit through an ad. The article describes that Napolitano provided some piqued criticism of President Donald Trump's overt that's always a tough word to say, for me anyway, politicization of the Department of Justice. Okay, here, let's try this again.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions, this is your penalty of jeopardizing the midterms for Republicans, tweeting this. 2 long-running Obama-era investigations of 2 very popular Republican congressmen were brought to a well-publicized charge just ahead of the midterms by the Jeff Sessions Justice Department. 2 easy wins now in doubt because there's not enough time. Good job, Jeff.
Well, the president apparently referring to investigations into the GOP Congressman Duncan Hunter and Chris Collins, both indicted last month.
Here to weigh in, Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, what was the president trying to say with those tweets? Because it sounds like one thing. I just want to know if you think the same thing I do.
Well, there's 2 sides to this. One is that the president is the chief law enforcement officer of the land and should have some control over the Justice Department. And this president feels that he has no control over the Justice Department because of the total breakdown in communications between the president and the attorney general. The other side is this is evidence of serious crime here, and there can't be 2 standards, one for members of Congress, Republican members of Congress, and one for others. It is the duty of the Justice Department to prosecute crimes when they find them and to bring indictments when a grand jury has decided there's enough evidence there. In the case of Congressman Collins from New York, there's an actual tape of him on his cell phone at the White House during a party hosted by President and Mrs. Trump, telling his son, sell the stock, because there was bad news coming in shares of stock that they own. Any father would do that for any son, but it's still a crime, and the Justice Department was right to indict.
Was that a government phone?
I don't know the answer to that if it was a government phone, but he wasn't charged with using government property to further a crime. In the case of Congressman Hunter, this is a very, very serious and sad story of the degeneration of a member of Congress who comes from a great family. His father held that congressional seat for many years. This was the use of campaign funds for personal, below-the-radar screen reasons. It did start in the Obama administration. That is, the acts that the government alleges occurred while Barack Obama was president and continued into the presidency of Donald Trump. The Justice Department would have been most unwise had it waited until after the midterm elections to pop these indictments.
But, Judge, here's the thing. Did they have these conclusions in June? Did they have them in May? Do we know that?
We don't know the answer to that.
That's what the president's saying.
Correct. But when the president says these things, he basically, I want you to use the Justice Department to help the Republican Party. That is fodder for the cannon of Bob Mueller and the Never-Trumpers and all those who wish the president ill. It's his using his own words out of his own mouth to help put him in a box of the use of government for political purposes.
And if the Republicans lose the House, then he's blaming Jeff Sessions.
Exactly. Exactly. Where this goes, I don't know. Off to the Kavanaugh hearings.
All right, Judge, thank you very much.
Now, when you say good job, Judge, do you mean it, Brian, the way the president said good job, Jeff?
That's a good question. Write us, tweet us, and tell us what I really mean.
All right, Ainsley, I owe you one.
It does get weird at the very end of that clip where, Napolitano makes that joke, and then he cackles at his own joke like it's the funniest thing he's ever heard in his life. That's a little weird. But anyway, so there you go. So that's Napolitano. That's his again, it's here in the article. When the president says these things, basically, I want you to use the Justice Department to help the Republican Party. That is fodder for the cannon of Bob Mueller and never Trumpers and all those who wish the president ill. It's using his own words out of his own mouth to help put him in a box of the use of government for political purpose. I think that's a pretty good assessment. And Trump is, certainly, as we know, he's not shy about harming himself. So the other, there's another big bit of news out today, of course, Bob Woodward's book, which apparently, as I don't think anyone would expect. I don't think anyone would expect it to have a lot of complimentary things about the Trump administration necessarily. And maybe we'll go through some of the things that I've seen a couple of lists of particularly damning things that are in Bob Woodward's book. However, I also want to play for you this clip. This is fascinating to me. The Washington Post has released a transcript and audio recording of Bob Woodward's recent conversation with President Trump, his most recent conversation with President Trump. And it begins with Trump asking Woodward why he never pursued an interview with him personally before completing his manuscript. And Woodward said that he tried to reach out to the president through 6 or 7 different aides, including Kellyanne Conway and Raj Shah, but he never heard back. And listening to this and hearing, the way the president sort of tries to counter it and then gets Kellyanne Conway involved and on the phone, it reminds me of, it's like when you call a customer service line somewhere with a complaint about something and they don't really want to solve your problem and they're making every excuse imaginable not to solve your problem, and then they get a supervisor involved who's also not interested in actually solving your problem. That's kind of what this reminds me of. But here, I'm going to go ahead and play it for you. I think it's pretty entertaining. I'll probably interject as it plays, but check this out. This is from August 14th, so couple weeks ago. But so this was obviously before the book came out. But here it is.
Good. My tape recorder.
Oh, that's
with
okay.
Your permission.
That's okay. I don't mind.
Sorry, we missed the opportunity to talk for the book.
Well, I just spoke with Kellyanne, and she asked me if I got a call. I never got a call. I never got a message. Who did you ask about speaking to me?
Well, about 6 people.
Well, they don't tell me.
Senator, I talked to Kellyanne about it 2.5 months ago. She came for lunch.
Well, it's too bad. Of course, you and I had a conversation, a couple of years ago, and so that I think got you there a little bit. And we had a conversation many years ago, if you remember, in Trump Tower.
I did.
That has to be 20 years ago. And you were thinking about doing a book about me then, which is interesting. Who knew it would have been on this subject, right? That was not in the cards at that time.
That's right. Well, I'm sorry. I
still remember that.
I spent a lot of time on this, talked to lots of people.
Right, good.
And as you know and are living, we're at a pivot point in history.
Right.
And I would have liked to have done that, and I maximized my effort.
Right.
And somehow it didn't get to you.
It's really too bad because nobody told me about it, and I would have loved to have spoken to you. You know I'm very open to you. I think you've always been fair, but we'll see what happens. But all I can say is the country is doing very well. We're doing better economically just about that at any time. We're doing better on unemployment maybe than ever. If you look at the unemployment numbers, you've heard me say it. And we're doing better on unemployment than just about ever. We're having a lot of companies are moving back into our country, which would have been unheard of 2 years ago. If the other administration or representatives of it had kept going, or kept, if the other group had won, I will tell you that you would have, I think you'd have a GDP of less than 0. I think we would have been going in the wrong direction because regulations are such a big part of what we've done, Bob.
Well, I understand that point of view, and as you know, it's also a difficult time where the political system and you and my business is being tested.
Yeah.
And I take it very seriously. I've done books on 8 presidents going back from Nixon, Obama.
Right.
And I learned something about reporting, frankly, Mr. President.
Good.
I've got to go talk to people and see them outside of the White House and outside of their offices, and gained a lot of insight and documentation. And it's it's a tough look at the world and your administration and you.
Right. Well, I assume that means it's going to be a negative book, but I'm sort of 50% used to that. That's all right. Some are good and some are bad. Sounds like this is going to be a bad one.
It's a chance missed, and I don't know how things work over there in terms
Very well.
of getting to you.
Well, if you would call Madeline in my office, did you speak to Madeline?
No, I didn't. But
Madeline is the key. She's the secret because
I talked
she's
to Raj
she's
about
the person.
I talked to Kelly.
Well, a lot of them are afraid to come and talk, or they are busy. I'm busy, but I don't mind talking to you. I would have spoken to you. I spoke to you 20 years ago. I spoke to you a year and a half or 2 years ago.
Let me just pause it right there. So, Trump is doing everything he can to somehow make it Bob Woodward's fault. That Bob Woodward, kept approaching. He talked to various people from the administration who never went and told Trump, but somehow it's Bob's fault. And that's just fascinating to me. And then, you're going to hear, I don't want to spoil it. Another person, well, I kind of already did spoil it, but another person enters this whole dialogue here in a moment. But here.
I certainly don't mind talking to you, and I wish I could have spoken to you.
Well,
but but nobody called my office. I mean, you went through, different people.
Mr. President, how can I spend all this time talking to people and like Kellyanne and Raj and Republican senators? I mean,
who were the senators? No, they never called me about it.
Senator Graham said he had talked to you about talking to me. Now, is that not true?
Senator Graham actually mentioned it quickly on one meeting, and that is true. That is true. Well, but that is true. Mentioned it quickly, not like and I would certainly have thought that maybe you would have called the office, but that's okay. I'll speak to Kellyanne. I am a little surprised that she wouldn't have told me.
Yeah,
in fact, she just walked in. I'm talking to Bob Woodward. He said that he told you about speaking to me, but you never told me. Why didn't you tell me? I would have been very happy to speak to him. All right, so what are you going to do?
Well,
so I have another bad book coming out.
It goes on, and what you can count on is that I've been very careful. And Evelyn, are you on?
Yes.
Evelyn Duffy, who's my assistant, Mr.
Hello, Evelyn.
She transcribed all the tapes because, with permission, I tape people for hundreds of hours.
Good.
And I think there's nothing in this book that doesn't come from a first-hand source. Is that correct, Evelyn?
I believe.
But are you naming names, or do you just say sources?
Yeah, well, it names real incidents. So.
No, but do you name sources? I mean, are you naming the people, or just say, people have said?
I say at 2 o'clock on this day, the following happened, and everyone who's there, including yourself, it is quoted. And I'm sorry I didn't get to ask you about these.
I mean, you do know I'm doing a great job for the country. You do know that NATO now is going to pay billions and billions of dollars more, as an example, than anybody thought possible, that other presidents were unable to get more, and it was heading downward. You do know all of the things I've done and things that I'm doing. I'm in the process of making some of the greatest trade deals ever to be made. You do understand that stuff. I mean, I hope.
I understand, and I would have loved to go through a discussion with you about NATO, because this, goes back to early in your administration and your concern about it, and the agreement that the countries have that they would increase their defense contribution, by the year 2024. And, so anyway, we are.
Well, you know, last year, if you see the Secretary Stoltenberg, he said, I believe $44 billion just last year, and that was from last year's meeting. And this year, it's much more money they've agreed to put up. So it's a tremendous amount of money. No other president has done it. It was heading down in the opposite direction. So I don't know if you're going to report it that way. Probably not. But it's too bad. But that's all right. But one of those things.
Everything is going to be factual, and it is not a good thing for my business, if I may say this to you, Mr. President, to the presidency or to the country, to not have real full exchanges on these. And I broke my spear on it trying to get to you.
Well, other than Lindsay, who did quickly mention it, nobody mentioned it. Nobody told me about it. Well, let me ask her. Why don't you speak to Kellyanne? Ask her. She never told me about it.
So here he actually gets Kellyanne on the phone, and it goes probably like you would expect. But here,
Kelly,
Bob, how are you? Hi.
Remember 2.5 months ago you came over and I laid out. I wanted to talk to the president, and you said you would get back to me.
I do, and I put in the request. But, you know, it was rejected. I can only take it so far. I guess I can bring it right to the president next time. But I try to follow all the protocols, or else I'm accused of being somebody who doesn't follow protocol.
President Trump, I just want you to know I made every
I hope Bob was wearing his boots when she said that to him, if you know what I mean.
effort.
Did you? But you had talked to Hope, right? Who said no?
Listen, I talked to anyone I could.
You talked to a number of people, and they all said no?
Raj, he was gonna
Raj,
work it out.
Hope, me.
Yeah.
And so you said you tried to talking to everybody. What about when you interviewed other people?
Yeah.
They all said yes?
Yeah, well,
That they'd try?
about 6 or 7 people I tried, and I couldn't have. You know, you and I spent a whole lunch on it, Kellyanne, and I said, I want to cover the substantive issues in foreign policy and domestic policy, and you said you would get back to me. Nothing.
Yeah, so I did. I presented it to the people here who make those decisions, but anyway, I'll give you back to the president, and I'm glad to hear that you tried through 7 or 8 different people.
Yep.
That's good. You should tell him all the names. Thank you.
Wow. But you see what I mean? It's like talking to a customer service representative and their supervisor who really have no interest in helping you. There's a little bit more here.
But you never called for me. It would have been nice, Bob, if you called for me in my office. I mean, I have a secretary. I have 2, 3 secretaries. If you would have called directly, a lot of people are afraid that Raj, I hardly have, I don't speak to Raj.
And then Trump just totally Bob Woodward's fault. Well, you should have called and asked for me, but, it's just such crap.
I do, and Kellyanne went to somebody, but she didn't come to me.
Well,
and she should have come to me. She does have access to me, absolutely. She has direct access, but she didn't come to me. And you know what? That's okay. I'll just end up with another bad book. What can I tell you?
It's surprising to me that these people, did Raj have access to you?
Not really, but he would have been able to do it. But I have an office. You have the office number. I have an office that's directly into my office. It doesn't matter. Let me tell you what matters. The economy is the best it's been in many, many decades, and it's going to get a lot better. And the country is doing very well. That's what's important.
Yes, sir. I thought
we're doing a good job.
Kind of say, let's not talk about this because the book is done.
Yeah, I know.
The president, but that's the position we're in, and it's one I tried to avoid. You need to know I made maximum effort.
All right, it's too bad.
Yes, sir.
I'm just hearing about it, and I did hear from Lindsay, but I'm just hearing about it. So we're going to have a very inaccurate book, and that's too bad.
No,
but I don't blame you entirely.
Be accurate.
All right, okay. Well, accurate is that nobody's ever done a better job than I'm doing as president. That I can tell you. So that's the way a lot of people feel that know what's going on, and you'll see that over the years. But a lot of people feel that, Bob. So
I believe in our country, and because you're our president, I wish you good luck.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bob. I appreciate it. Bye.
All right. There you go. I thought that was pretty fun to listen to. Hello to Chuck Gosson, who joins us in the Facebook live chat, as well as Ed Murphy. There's an article up on thehill.com. Woodward book offers damning assessment of Trump White House.
Governor Chris Sununu is...
Oh, boy. Sorry about that. So it's kind of funny, of all things, to pop up an ad for the governor. Let's see. So obviously, I want to go through these things that are in Woodward's book. I do want to point out, I think that because obviously people who are very pro-Trump are going to say, well, look at the last book that came out about this administration, Fire and Fury by Michael Wolff. It's just going to be more, because when Fire and Fury came out, well, actually I should say in the weeks preceding Fire and Fury coming out, there were a lot of accusations made that, and Michael Wolff didn't do himself any great favors, that maybe, he wasn't as accurate, and he wasn't as thorough as a journalist. I guess that's what I'm really trying to say. He wasn't as thorough as a journalist in terms of having multiple sources and whatnot. Saturday Night Live did a sketch where Michael Wolff is on Morning Joe, and they're asking him, did this really happen? These crazy stories, and he's like, yeah, sure. So there were a lot of questions about the credibility of that book. Now, I would put Bob Woodward on a different level. Woodward, of course, famously of Woodward and Bernstein. I know a lot of Republicans don't like him. They think he's a liberal. Maybe he is a liberal. I don't know. But I would certainly place him on a different level journalistically in terms of how he is regarded than I would say Michael Wolff. So that's what I think, but let's go through this. So thehill.com, it says veteran journalist Bob Woodward offered a damning portrayal of the Trump White House in a new book, according to excerpts published Tuesday in a story by the Washington Post. The Watergate reporter's book details numerous instances of conflict between the president and his staff and paints a picture of a dysfunctional White House full of predators, in the words of the former chief of staff, Reince Priebus. Trump and aides badmouthed one another often, according to the Washington Post, which obtained a copy of the book titled Fear, Trump in the White House. Which is quite a title. Trump mocked Attorney General Jeff Sessions' accent and described him to a staffer as mentally incompetent. Sessions has been a favorite punching bag for Trump, who has noted repeatedly that he would not have nominated the former Alabama senator for the job if he knew Sessions would recuse himself from overseeing the Mueller investigation. Quote, he couldn't even be a one-person country lawyer down in Alabama, unquote, Trump said of Sessions, according to Woodward's book. And I chuckle at that because, I'm not a huge fan of Trump, but I detest Attorney General Jeff Sessions. So, I don't mind. I don't mind that. The president told Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, quote, I don't trust you. I don't want you doing any more negotiations, unquote. Trump suggested former National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster dressed like a beer salesman and called Priebus a little rat. Priebus, who left the White House in the summer of 2017, did not respond to a request for comment from the Hill. The president's aides appeared to match the insults with their own, according to excerpts published in the Post, though they rarely, if ever, did so to Trump's face. Current Chief of Staff John Kelly is said to have called Trump unhinged and an idiot, which Kelly denied. Quote, the idea that I ever called the president an idiot is not true, unquote, Kelly said in a statement on Tuesday, today. He also said, quote, this is another pathetic attempt to smear people close to President Trump and distract from the administration's many successes, unquote. Priebus reportedly described Trump's bedroom as the devil's workshop because of his propensity to watch cable news and tweet from there. Defense Secretary James Mattis told associates following a meeting with Trump about the conflict on the Korean Peninsula that Trump acted like a 5th or 6th grader. The White House blasted the book in a statement. White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders said, quote, this book is nothing more than fabricated stories, many by former disgruntled employees, told to make the president look bad, unquote. Woodward's book, which is set for a September 11 release, is based on hundreds of hours of interviews with firsthand sources, meeting notes, personal diaries, files, and documents. The reporter unsuccessfully attempted to interview the president, as we just heard, and it was all Bob's fault. Unsuccessfully attempted to interview the president for the book, but the Washington Post published the transcript and audio of an 11-minute call between Trump and Woodward in August after the manuscript was completed. Woodward told Trump that he reached out to roughly half a dozen staffers. Okay, so we know all that. We just heard that. Trump, who initiated the phone call, told Woodward that he did not hear about the requests. So we can skip that. In April of 2017, following a chemical attack on civilians in Syria, Trump urged Mattis that the U.S. should kill Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Not necessarily the worst idea. Mattis I don't support an interventionist foreign policy, but, not necessarily the worst idea. Mattis reportedly went along with the president's demands during the phone call, but immediately told aides that they would take a much more measured approach. In the fall of 2017, Trump told then Staff Secretary Rob Porter that he viewed his relationship with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un as a contest of wills. The comment came before the president began dubbing him Rocket Man and months before any breakthrough in relations between the two sides. Woodward writes that the executive branch under Trump experienced a nervous breakdown, quote unquote, with top staffers snatching papers off of Trump's desk so he couldn't see them or follow through on what they believed would be catastrophic decisions for trade or national security. Snippets published in the Post describe aides attempting to push back against the president's impulses, with Trump engrossed with paranoia over special counsel Robert Mueller and the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. White House staffers compared to the president's feelings about Mueller to former President Richard Nixon's last days in the White House. Trump regularly derides Mueller's investigation as a witch hunt, but has publicly expressed a desire to sit down for an interview with the special counsel. Woodward reported that in order to prepare Trump, his lawyers conducted a mock interview with the president in January. Jay Sekulow, one of Trump's current attorneys, denied to Times' Brian Bennett that they conducted such a practice session. Attorney John Dowd, this is interesting. Attorney John Dowd is said to have urged the president not to agree to an interview just a day before resigning from his post in March. Don't testify. It's either that or an orange jumpsuit, Dowd told Trump, according to Woodward's book. The book could roil the White House, just as it seems to have moved on from questions raised in a book by former aide Omarosa Manigault-Newman. Last week, amid a tirade against the media and anonymous sources, Trump claimed he'd been the victim of both fake news and fake books. Newman, who was fired from the Trump administration in December, grabbed the spotlight last month with her book Unhinged. So we know all that. I'm going to skip down a little bit here. The Woodward book threatens to be even more problematic given the journalist's standing, and this is what I was talking about a moment ago. Woodward has written a series of tell-all Washington books about previous administrations, a number of which have become bestsellers. R.E. Fleischer, a press secretary for former President George W. Bush, noted that he's been a subject in a previous Woodward book. Fleischer tweeted, "There were quotes in it I didn't like, but never once, never, did I think Woodward made it up. Anonymous sources have looser lips and may take liberties, but Woodward always plays it straight. Someone told it to him." The Post stories on Woodward's book were published just as Trump's Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh sat down for the first day of what is expected to be a highly contentious confirmation hearing. It comes months before the midterm elections, which are increasingly looking dicey for Republicans, at least in the House. Two new polls released this week have shown Democrats with a healthy lead on the generic House ballot. So there you go. There's some of the revelations from Woodward's book. But so funny just to hear Trump and then Kellyanne Conway trying to make it all his fault. I did refer to this earlier in the show, but apparently it is official. Former Republican Senator John Kyle is going to replace McCain, bolstering conservatives. in the Senate. You know, I think that the way this works is technically it's up to the governor of each state when something happens and a Senate seat rather is vacated because of a death or a resignation or whatever it may be. In terms of, you know, someone can be appointed by the governor to fill out that term, and then when the next election happens, obviously there will be a new election, but there will be someone new, or if the person who's been appointed decides to run for re-election, they may be actually elected. But there was talk at one point about the possibility, and actually I saw this being spoken about on social media in some corners as though this were definitely going to happen, and that was there was talk of Cindy McCain actually becoming the new senator in that seat from Arizona, but then nothing came of it. But there is precedent for that, and I can't remember who specifically offhand, but there absolutely is precedent for a spouse taking over. I'm thinking that when Sonny Bono had that accident where he was skiing and he ran into a tree, I'm thinking that his wife had actually taken over his Senate seat at the time. But I could be mistaken. I'm not positive on that. But yeah, Reuters is reporting that former U.S. Republican Senator John Kyle is Arizona Governor Doug Ducey's pick to fill the U.S. Senate seat from Arizona vacated by John McCain, who died last month. So this announcement comes today from the governor. Says here the appointment brings a more conservative bent to the Senate, given Kyle's voting record and how it veers from that of McCain, a maverick who sometimes collaborated with Democrats on legislation. Once he is formally installed in the Senate, Kyle's first major vote is likely to be on the confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, I don't know if anyone was necessarily concerned about how, I mean, I think McCain would have voted to confirm Kavanaugh. So I don't think there was any, I don't think there was any particular worry about that from Republicans specifically. But that would be assuming that McCain at that point were healthy enough to be there, and obviously now, now he's passed away. So once he is, oh no, I'm sorry. Let me skip down here. Kyle, now a lobbyist at the law firm Covington and Burling, already has been working behind the scenes to boost Kavanaugh's prospects. He would provide more of a cushion to a Republican victory in the deeply divided Senate, given that McCain had been too sick all year to cast votes in Washington. Yeah, and if you remember that very dramatic moment where, where McCain came in for the Affordable Care Act repeal vote, where McCain very dramatically did the thumbs down on the floor of the Senate when they voted. I think he showed up at kind of the last minute, if I remember correctly. And it was all very dramatic and so forth. But I think that at that point, I mean, he had obviously already been undergoing treatments, and and it was a struggle for him. But I think after that, there were a lot of votes that he simply wasn't there for, a lot of votes on, less pressing legislation for the Republicans where they weren't necessarily as concerned with him being able to be there and to vote. I mean, they do hold the majority after all, so, in theory, they shouldn't have needed him for every vote. But John Kyle will be, more reliable in that way, not only in that he'll be able to be there all the time, but a more consistent conservative. Let's see. Mark Jones, a political science professor at Rice University in Houston, said, quote, he told Reuters, Kyle tended to be more conservative than McCain throughout his tenure in the Senate, unquote. Kyle, who's age 76, served with McCain in the Senate and rose to become Republican whip, the second highest leadership post in the party's Senate leadership before retiring in 2013. In a statement announcing Kyle's appointment, Governor Ducey said his fellow Republican, quote, understands how the Senate functions and will make an immediate and positive impact benefiting all Arizonians, unquote. Once Kyle is sworn in, Republicans will return to the 51 seats they held in the 100-member Senate before McCain's death. Democrats control 49 seats, including 2 independents who align with them. While no date has been announced for Kyle to take the oath of office, a swearing-in typically occurs promptly after the governor's appointment. Republican President Donald Trump has long feuded with McCain. Okay, so we know about that already. So at a news conference, Kyle said that he's only met Trump once several months ago. Quote, "I don't really have any relationship with President Trump." So after, I'm going to kind of skip down again. So Kyle's stint as a senator will not be long. His return to the Senate. It says a special election will be called in 2020 to fill the remainder of McCain's term. Now, okay, so that's interesting. So they won't even, so he won't even be there for the rest of McCain's term. They're going to have a special election to figure that out. And that's, so I wonder, I mean, you know, and the process of it is just interesting to me. I wonder how they determine how long the person who's being appointed should be there before they have the special election. But obviously, that is a decision that's been made. Special election will be called in 2020 to fill the remainder of McCain's term, which would have ended in January of 2023. Kyle said he would not be a candidate in 2020, and if Kyle were to leave before November 2020, Ducey would have to name another caretaker for the seat. Kyle served 4 two-year terms in the U.S. House before he was first elected to a 6-year stint in the Senate in 1994. He retired at the end of his 3rd term in January 2013. McCain's fellow Arizonian, retiring U.S. Senator Jeff Flake, who has been one of Trump's most prominent Republican critics, praised the pick on Twitter, calling it an excellent choice. Kyle also won praise from an opposition Democrat responding to a reporter's question about the choice. Representative Steny Hoyer, the number 2 Democrat in the House, said given that the Arizona governor was, quote, not going to appoint somebody who was going to vote with us, it's a pretty good appointment, unquote. So there you go. I mean, certainly someone who obviously knows the Senate, knows the lay of the land there, and will certainly know what he's doing. So there's that. But I have to think that, you know, again, that they feel a little bit better. Like I said, I mean, I think McCain would have voted for the confirmation of Kavanaugh, but this, but having someone like John Kyle in there certainly doesn't hurt. So we shall see. Let's see how much, we're actually, well, it's almost top of the hour. So we will begin to wrap up. I had something that I wanted to play, and then I ended up doing something else. Let's see. Maybe we'll, you know what I think we'll do? We'll wrap up with a quick song here by my favorite YouTuber, Rocky Mountain Mike. It's a fun song parody, A Matter of Trump. I haven't played this one in a while. So we will end with this. Of course, this has been Matt Connarton, Unleashed in the Afternoon. Live weekdays 4 to 6 right here on WMNH 95.3 FM. Thank you to Libertarian candidate Jilletta Jarvis for coming in earlier. Thank you, Jenny and Glenn R.J. Ouellette. And everybody in the Facebook live chat, Eric Gagnon for calling in. And that's it for now. If you missed any part of today's show, it'll be up in just a little bit at WMNHradio.org. And I'll be back tomorrow. And we're out. I'll talk at y'all a little bit later. Bye, everybody.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.